Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wraith, and today I'm going to be going over concentrated unit tactics. I don't know what you call it. You know what, I'm going to call it my own thing. I'm going to call it cohort tactics, okay? Now, before I start, I'm talking about Middle-Earth strategy battle game, obviously. Judging by the thumbnail, you should probably be able to tell. And what do I mean by cohort tactics? Well, this is a thing that I've spoken to a couple of people about, and some people do this. I've done this a couple of times, and it can work quite nicely. It can absolutely blow up in your face as well, sometimes, on occasion, but it tends to be quite nice. And I guess I do it quite a lot, more often than I think now I'm thinking about it. But what is it? What is cohort tactics? Cohort tactics is having multiple different squads, or warbands should I say, that are basically self-sufficient all-rounders. By that I mean they have a counter to most things. So as an example of a cohort, you could have, let's say, a Minas Tirith captain. You've got some Minas Tirith warriors with shield, and you've either got normal spear supports, or you can go Fountain Guard with shields or whatever. Normal spear supports are probably the best, alongside a couple of cavalry. Okay, so you fill out that warband, or get it to a decent size. They need to be decent sized for warbands as well for this to work, and they've got a pretty much all-rounder. So you've got the defense in there, and the number of attacks with spear supports, so if they do get engaged in combat, they can hold against whatever they charge for at least a turn or two until reinforcements arrive to help out. And if that particular cohort is not facing a cavalry threat, you've got the cavalry there to perform a classic hammer and anvil. You engage with the infantry, hit the sides or the rear if you can with your own cavalry, because you've got a couple of knights there to get the cavalry bonus. Trap them if possible, but you'll get the cavalry bonus, double attacks, knock to the ground, stuff like that. And you'll be really surprised of how well that works. It really does. Trust me, it really, really does. So I always try and include cavalry. Now, you can't bring banners for all of these units, but one or two. Ideally, you want a hero who counts as a banner if you've got one option, and then you can bring a spare banner for another cohort, so you can have them more as your main bulk of the army. So you can have two slightly more elite units, maybe a bit more bulky cohorts with your leader in, whoever it may be, King Elisar, whatever. And then maybe another named hero in the other one, with slightly bigger warbands. Okay, now this obviously works mainly at higher point levels, so we're talking like 650 plus, but sure, you can do it at lower points if you want. And it works especially well with slightly cheaper armies. Mordor can do quite well with this kind of cohort system, I found. Minas Tirith work quite well, but maybe 2 to 3 cohorts, as many as you can fit in really, because not only can you counter most threats, not all threats, but most threats, and threats you can't counter, you'll be able to hold up until, like I said, another cohort can arrive, or maybe a cohort designed to deal with another a big hero gets involved into one of your cohorts with his supports, and you can then hold down until your King Elisar can come in and deal with that threat. The other advantage to having this is not just dealing with threats, is also if you're playing an objective-based game, you can start spreading out a bit to sit on objectives. You can push forward and grab an objective to the west side of the battlefield and the east side and hold one in the centre. And you know you've got cohorts that can hold on to these and be self-sufficient to an effect. Obviously, if you throw an entire army at one of your cohorts, that's fine. You've got 2 other cohorts who are holding the rest. That's why I like it. It's quite flexible. It's much more flexible than having like one big main battle line that's designed to be together. The other advantage is if you're playing with Maelstrom of Battle rules, where you're rolling randomly to see if you turn up or where you turn up, they're not exactly 100% screwed like some warbands can be. So if you've got a warband that's designed to fight with the rest of the army and gets deployed nowhere near the rest of the army, you could lose all those points. Okay, so yeah, so what are we going over? The basic concept of a cohort and their strengths. So weaknesses. The weakness of a cohort is they can get focused down. like if you keep your whole army together, they've all got each other's backs. You can hold the flanks. You're less likely to get encircled by the enemy. So that is a downside of running cohorts. They can get focused down, and over a lengthy battle, you probably find out that if you're fighting at like 2-to-1, like points equivalent, so the enemy's got twice the amount of points worth of models compared to your cohort, you're probably going to lose out. And if you can't get reinforcements in to help them out, they're going to be pretty screwed. But other than that, I quite like the cohort system. The other downside is you don't want to really be shooting your cavalry away from these cohorts. They're meant to be sticking around to counter enemy cavalry. That's the other use for them. So if you have got a cavalry threat from your enemy, or opponent should I say, I keep calling them the enemy, they are the enemy, we're there to take them down. You've got a counter. So if you do get charged by Gothmog on Warg, you've got cavalry to countercharge it, take his cav bonus away. Perfect. If you get charged by Riders of Rohan, you've got some cavalry to ping off a couple of them. This is why I love Mordor, because you've got access to throwing spears. Obviously this works for Rohan as well, but you'll probably be fully mounted with Rohan anyway. But if you've got a couple of Wargs with them with throwing spears, and you do take a full charge from a bunch of cavalry, you've got the chance to charge in, take out one rider with a throwing spear, and then engage one or two others with that one Warg. So you could effectively take out a guy and hold up cancel multiple charge bonuses for their cavalry. It's pretty good. Okay, so there we go. Pros, cons, basic construct, happy days. Now, what kind of tactics can we do? Because this is a Shadow Tactics video. Is that a good name for these kinds of videos? I think so. Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think that I should be calling these kind of videos Shadow Tactics? Or is that a bit cheesy? Anyway, back to the topic. What tactics can we do with these cohort system? Well, it's quite nice because you're very maneuverable, okay? Everyone's self-sufficient, so you don't have to worry too much about breaking up your army too much. And that is a worry in my head. Am I sending enough cavalry around that flank? Am I sending enough troops around that flank? You know, if you send that cohort around the flank, you've got more than enough guys to deal with what, to do what they need to do. So, you can still keep to a standard battle line to an extent, move forward, and have one of them on the side ready to go for a flank. So main battle lines closing on each other, and then your one cohort to the right flank uses a heroic march to swing around. Next turn you've got a sizable force or a big enough threat to charge into the flank, and you put your opponent in the perfect situation for you, where he's only got two options really. Engage one of the warbands or cohorts, either the one that you want them to engage initially, your main battle line, or engage the cohort that is round behind them or to their flank, in which case they get flanked by the other and could get trapped, or they can withdraw from that situation. And they're both they've both got their advantages. If you really want to take out that portion of their battle line, you're going to have to pretty much commit to it quite a lot, but yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. The other tactic you can do with this, which I've done once successfully because I've only tried it once and it worked out quite nicely, is try and go for a full army envelopment. By that I mean you spread out your cohorts a little bit wider than you usually would, so they're a little bit isolated, but with heroic marches on the flanks and pushing forward with the centre, you can get a nice crescent shape. So imagine a croissant, if you say that, that's correct, or a crescent moon, and the concave portion of the moon is facing your enemy, and your enemy's force is within that concave segment of the crescent shape. That again gives them a couple of options. They can either commit and engage them, or they can start withdrawing. Either way is good for you, because battlefield control is absolutely essential, because you can force them into horrible positions where they're pushed to the back of their lines or pushed into a choke point or anything like that, or when they've engaged you, that's what you wanted. So they're already in that crescent shape and you're already starting to surround them, and then your cohort can start splitting off with their cavalry to envelop them even further. It's just stuff like that. I really like the system. It's quite fun. to play with. It's hard to master and it can go wrong, but I really like it. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think this is viable? Have you ever tried it? And would you try it? That's all I want to know. But yeah, I've seen this work a few times with my own armies and other people using it. But I just thought it was a bit different, and I thought it'd be quite fun to talk about on here, on my channel. But yeah, if you enjoyed this Shadow Tactics video, do hit the like button so I know people want to get these tactic videos and they like the content. And if you're feeling especially saintly today, do consider subscribing. But even if you don't do either of the things, I still hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.